Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure. So yes, FIT in French, Fondation pour l'innovation technologique, or in English, Foundation for Technological Innovation. So it's a foundation that was created in 1994, and the main goal of the foundation is to support startups. Originally, it was mostly technological startups from EPFL and this ecosystem. So it was in the DNA of the foundation. It's really tech startups, but we started to evolve in the last years. Yeah, kind of. And now we are also supporting digital startups and low tech projects. So we broaden our field of expertise. And today we support around 45 startups each year with grants and loans of up to 500,000 Swiss francs. So the maximum is 500,000.
Okay, fantastic. Well, that's really great for sure.
Yeah.
And so you were just saying, so you started evolving a little bit with the spectrum, broadening a little bit the spectrum of type of startup you're supporting. So I was wondering if you want to tell us a bit about the different branch that you have, tech and the other ones, and I mean, of course, I will put a link below the video and people can look in greater details, but also just maybe your thoughts as someone within the organization regarding the branch that may be the strongest.
Yeah, so we have three main programs to support the startups. We have Fit Tech, so this is really the first one that we launched. Then Fit Digital for digital startups, and Fit Impact, that is for startups, low-tech startups with a high impact. Overall, across all these three different programs, we have 1/3 of the startups that we support that are in life sciences. And this is true since the launch of the foundation in 1994. It's still the case today, but it has been like this since forever. It's mostly due to the strong link with EPFL and CHUV and the amount of life science startups in Swiss Romande and Innovaud also. And then we see these last years that we have more and more startups in clean tech and energy. So these fields of activities are also gaining a lot of interest. I think also clearly because of the climate change and the stronger will to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And we have also a lot of startups that are cross industries, like thinking, for example, of Volteris, which are solar panels also in agri-tech. So it's really a mix of clean tech, agri-tech, and always with this goal to make something positive.
Right.
And so yeah, we're really in a wide range of domains.
Okay, super interesting. That's great, and that's great to be able to be at the heart of an innovative field like that and see what's happening for the future. And the opposite question that I was wondering is, so which of those may struggle more, and what would that be? If you've noticed a branch or like a type of startups that are struggling, and or the main difficulties that some can encounter, I would say.
So I would say until quite recently, startups that were not tech or digital, it was more difficult for them to find adequate support in the canton of Vaud, at least, because historically we're more for tech startups because of EPFL. Again, it's the same story again and again.
Right.
And so these startups that are more recent, it's a more recent trend that has emerged in the past recent years.
Right.
It was more difficult for them to find funding or even coaching, stuff like this, because it was less in our spirit and less common, I would say.
Right.
But now with the emergence of more and more startups that are low tech, I think at least we're trying to do better in this view.
Okay.
So that's also why we launched this year Fit Impact, and I think also in the canton in general, there are more and more initiatives that are blooming to support these kind of startups.
Right. Okay. Understood. So there was the origins a very strong desire to be specialized for reasons that make sense with the local ecosystem, but that is evolving, and there's
Yeah.
this new strategy now to broaden.
Yeah, exactly. That's well synthesized. It's exactly this the point that we're trying to make now.
Right. Sorry about the noise. I live on a loud neighborhood. And so the next question I wanted to ask you is in terms of partnerships. I personally live in Geneva, so I got to find out about FONGIT first, since I'm interested about the innovative sector, even though I'm not in a startup. But so after discovering FONGIT, that led me to discover about you and hear a really good positive feedback, by the way. And so
Thanks.
wanted to let us know about your partnerships, maybe with FONGIT or other kind of partnerships.
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. It's super important to be well connected with the ecosystem. So because we're mostly active in Innovaud, of course, we have stronger partnerships with the organisms Innovaud in general, but we also try to be well connected with the players in the Suisse romande in general. Again, because of the history of the canton of Vaud, we have really strong ties with EPFL. EPFL is also a founding member of the FIT, so it's the relationship goes way back. But then we also work with, I mean, other universities and schools. We have links with UNIL, EHL, the Haute École, HEIGVD. So we're trying to be really everywhere. I mean, at least as much as possible. And for other collaborations, we also work a lot with really specifically players in the startup ecosystem, like Innovaud, for example. They help us a lot to select the startups that we're going to support, and we work really closely with them.
Okay.
But we also have strong ties. I mean, I can name all of them. It's going to be a long list, but with Genève, FONGIT, EPFL, it's something that we really care about, and we're trying to nurture this every day.
Okay, fair enough. And that's essentially around the Swiss romande, or I'm not exactly sure how to say that in English, or does it go beyond to partnerships with Zurich and other part of Switzerland?
No, it's really Swiss romande, and even more, it's really Vaud, because most of the supports that we give at FIT are specifically for startups based in Vaud. So the heart of our activity is really here around Lausanne and Vaud in general. So
Right.
what we do, I mean, it's more important for us to be really present here, and so the links, I mean, we don't really have any links with Zurich and so on.
Okay, well, regional is also a really good strategy. Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, so you're kind of like touching a little bit upon the next question, but just to be super clear, so if a startup is not based in Canton de Vaud at the moment, based somewhere in Switzerland or even maybe abroad, and they were interested in incorporating in Switzerland, do they have to do that first before they can work with you, or would you be open to dealing with startups that would be interested in coming?
So the way it usually works, I mean, startups have to already be here. So depending on the support that we're talking about, it's either Suisse romande or Vaud, but they have to be here first. And there are some exceptions. I mean, it happens all the time, but it's quite rare. And we're not, I mean, at FIT, we're not really the experts to help companies move into Switzerland and stuff, but Innovaud would be really the right partner if, I mean, if companies are interested in moving here and receiving support from FIT, etc. Innovaud is like, it's one of their mission to help entrepreneurs settle in this canton.
Right. Okay. And I was reading that you were saying earlier that Innovaud would be a partner to get started and to move into the area before incorporation. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Innovaud is, in general, they help entrepreneurs, and they're really the promotion for the cantons. So they have a lot of different tools and missions, and they can help in a lot of different ways. But for sure, it's also a really great help to help navigate the ecosystem, because I mean, it's a really diverse and vibrant ecosystem with a lot of things happening at the same time. So sometimes if you're not really connected or you don't know everything already, having someone that helps you meet the right persons or go to the right events, it's really useful, I think.
Absolutely, for sure. That makes sense. And so beyond the questions of incorporation and size and the type of ecosystem, if we take a little bit of a look at your grants and your programs, so it's already like very clear and well designed on the website, but to dig a little bit further here. And try to get a few clues that wouldn't be on the website. For the startups in tech and digital, I was reading that one of the criterion to be selected, one of the criteria is to be difficult to imitate and to have a strong growth power, growth potential.
Yep.
So would you mind telling us a little bit more about what's behind that concept?
Sure. So what we understand by like growth potential and difficulty to imitate, it's two things. So the startup has to be innovative. So it means something that doesn't already exist 10 times here in Lausanne or around the region. And something that is not, I mean, that couldn't be easily replicated in 5 minutes by 50 other people. So this is like really how we define difficulty to replicate. And then the growth potential, it is what we want is to support startups that have the capacity of creating jobs. So first here in Canton de Vaud, but then also further. And so for us, it's really important to have these two aspects, and that's what we understand with these words, I would say.
Right. Right.
Then if I go more in depth, for tech startups, we are going to look if the companies is able to file for a patent. So we're really looking into intellectual property. And this is something we would typically expect for all the tech program that we have.
Okay.
For digital startups, it's a bit less objective since it's not possible for all of them to file for patents. But we rely on the experience of our selection committees and coaches. And this is true for all of our supports. It's the decision of giving the grant or the loan. It's always taken by the selection committee. And we have, I mean, we care to have really diversified selection committees with a lot of experts, people from academia, from the industry. So I think we rely really on their expertise to assess the project.
Okay, great. Yes, perfect. I was going to go in that direction and ask you a little bit about the special committees and coaches that help you
Yeah.
decide and so they're all from Canton de Vaud. How is it? How have you built these committees?
So it's a bit different depending on what support we're talking about. First of all, so the foundation has 13 contributors, and we allow each of them to have one representative in each of our selection committees. So first of all, this is the first part of our committees. And then we try to go to people who have complementary expertise. So it would be, for example, entrepreneurs that set up businesses in this kind of activity, or people who did research, people from big corporations that can also help with business connections or network, or yeah. So it has to be really complementary people. And I think for now we kind of managed to get really good committees, and we see also that we have a really good mood, and people are really happy and doing a lot in these selection committees. I mean, over even more than what they're really strictly required to do.
Okay, right. Passionate board members and
Yeah.
employees. Great. And outside of the digital and tech startups, there are also the one that would belong to Fit Impact,
Yeah.
having a social and or environmental goal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, similar question, but I was wondering if we could dig a little bit deeper into the type of criteria that you're looking for there, and
Sure.
and maybe I was gonna add as a second question, but it's correlated to it, but if it's sometimes connected to the SDGs.
Yeah. Sure. So, well, actually, the SDGs it's a really nice tool, and we use it for all of our supports, not only Fit Impact, also like Fit Tech and Fit Digital. We also classify them with the SDGs, and most of our startups, they meet at least some of the SDGs, sometimes several. So it's really nice, and we also care to support projects with a positive impact, whether they're tech, digital, or low tech. It's the outcome is the same. We want to do something good. But for Fit Impact more specifically, we actually have the ambition to go further than just the SDGs. So what is important here is really to assess first the impact of the project. We're going to look at the technology and the business model and everything afterwards. So the first thing that we look at is really the impact. And for this, we want that the project leader go really in depth in understanding how they're going to build their project, if they're going to go with, I don't know, suppliers based in Switzerland, outside of Switzerland, who these suppliers are, what is the impact of their production, the supply chain, the logistics, everything. So we're really going to ask specific questions and expect the project leader to have thought about everything, or at least try to think about everything, because it's not always possible. But this is really how we're going to assess them. And again, I mean, going back to the selection committee for Fit Impact, it's really people who are with extensive experience in social impact and environmental impact. And so we're also really counting on them to help us assess the projects that we are going to see and support with Fit Impact.
Okay, that's great. And great to hear about the SDGs being taken into account over all your branches, all your sectors in a holistic manner. That's amazing. And if we shift a little bit and focus on Fit itself, I had a question that you kindly accepted to keep, which is about your own funding. So trying to understand a little bit better how you're funded, and talk at the same time about the investing platform that I saw, fit-investors.ch.
Yeah, sure. So I think the easiest is to go back a little bit in time. So the foundation, as I said earlier, it was founded in 1994, and initially it was EPFL, Banque Cantonale Vaudoise, the CVCI, the Chamber of Commerce from Canton de Vaud, and the Canton of Vaud, and they got together and they founded the foundation. But at the time, as I said, it was really more for tech startups, and it was also very little activity compared to today and how many startups we support each year today. So today we have 13 contributors, so much more than 4 at the time. And we're really happy to support, as I said, around 45 startups each year. It depends a little. I mean, sometimes it's 40, sometimes it's 50, but it's around 45. And in terms of metrics, we are happy to have allocated 63 million Swiss francs, since 1994. So it's quite a lot. And from this, we still have 300 companies that are active in Switzerland and 5,000 jobs in Switzerland and also abroad. So I think we have a positive economic impact, but also impact in general, not only economic. And as I said, what is also important for us is to do good with the startups that we support.
Absolutely.
So yeah, the support that we get is from these 13 contributors, and they change a bit over time. Sometimes new ones join, sometimes some of them quit for different reasons. but they still allow us to continue this mission. So we are looking forward to 2024 and to be again doing more.
Yes.
And sorry, and the second part of the questions about sheet investors,
Right.
it's a bit of a different mission for us. So it's this platform was launched in order to help us connect our startups with investors of our network, and it goes both ways. It's for our startups to be more visible to investors, but also for investors to have an easy access to the startups that we supported, and to have mostly an easy access to what they're doing, if they're currently raising funds or not. And sometimes it's a bit difficult to keep track of everything. So this is the goal of the platform, and it's only dedicated to startups and investors of our network.
Okay.
So for startups, you need to have a loan or a grant from FED, and for investors, you have to be someone that we know. So we really select the people. You have to submit your profile to our approval to be able to see everything on the platform. And the point is to make sure there's not just anyone on the platform, and to make sure people have a real link to the ecosystem and to us.
Absolutely. Okay. No, that I mean, it makes sense to me to filter a little bit the database, so that also people investing in these startups, the startups are not back against the wall, thinking
Yeah.
like, I don't know who I owe you and what's going to be the conditions, or so it makes
Sure.
sense to have a bit of organization and control around that. And I
Yeah.
mean, if I can ask, not to dive too much into the specifics, but so, for example, do you look at the financial health of the investor, or more maybe when you say they need to have some kind of link and interest into the ecosystem, does that mean they have to be geographically involved, or can they somehow show their connection? Just out of curiosity, really.
Yeah, sure. So we are to explain maybe a bit better. We don't do any transaction on the platform. It's just like to put people in touch.
Okay.
So we're not gonna like ensure anything on either side. Like we can't say this startup it's a really good deal, or this investor is super healthy, because it's not really our role, our mission. I mean, as a foundation. However, to answer your questions, the investors that we allow on the platform are people that we know, either from events that we organize together with some of our partners, or from our own network. And they have to be aware of what it means investing into a startup. Sorry for the noise. So they have to know that it's a risky investment. We ask them, when they register on the platform, we ask them to read some different items on what it means to invest in a startup and stuff. And this is how we make sure they are aware of what they're doing, and the fact that it's not as easy as when you go to the bank and you say, I want to invest in something.
Absolutely. Okay, well, that's all good to know. Thank you. And another question I'm adding, but when you were explaining about the history of the organization and your metrics, that made me wonder about. So you've supported a great amount of startups
Yeah.
over the decades, the past decades. And I'm just wondering, do startups tend to stay in touch even after they're stop receiving fundings? There's some kind of alumni
Yeah.
them? Okay.
Yeah, there is. I would say, of course, after some time, like the first startups that we supported in 1994, we're not really close to them anymore. So I think the closer we are to the time when we gave the loan or the grants, the closer the relationship is. But I think it's normal also. But we have I think a growing sense of community around our alumni, and also trying like to build it through social media, through events, through different means. And I think it's also important because once a startup has grown a bit and has acquired more experience about how you make it work, actually, how you build a successful startup, they can also share this experience with the younger startups that are currently starting this journey. So I think we're working towards building a community, and I think this is also together with the partners that I mentioned before, like Innovaud, Genève and stuff. We have many alumni in common, and so working together with them with different events and bringing the people, the alumni together, it helps build really this community.
Amazing. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. It's still good to hear for sure.
Yeah.
And I'll put some links as many as possible below the video to where to connect and whatnot. But so, and to finish on something that hopefully will stick into people's mind is I wanted to ask you about what do you think makes your ecosystem in Canton de Vaud. I don't know how to say that in English, so Canton de Vaud. What do you think makes your ecosystem for startup strong compared to other region of Switzerland? Because I mean, we've already had some really good clues between your history, your network, your local or base and your metrics that you're doing really well. But I just think it would be nice if people have to walk away from this interview, what should stick with them about what makes you special and what maybe also the overall region of the French-speaking part of Switzerland is good. Yeah.
Well, I think there are actually a lot of advantages of being based, I mean, in Swiss Romande and in Vaud, and I mean, it's a really nice region, and especially for startups. I mean, as I said, and I mean, everybody's aware of this, there are in between EPFL, UNIL, EHL, and all these amazing universities, there's a huge pool of talents in the canton of Vaud. And also, I mean, a lot of infrastructures and means to do research, development, testing, and being really helped when you're trying to launch a company. So I think this type of support is something really important for entrepreneurs, and I think it's really accessible here.
Okay.
And I would say it's especially true in Canton of Vaud because everything is so close to each other. So I mean, geographically, but also in terms of links between the different players. But it's true in general in the Swiss romande. It's not only here. And yeah, as I was also mentioning earlier, events and the sense of community that is now really built between the alumni and the startups that are now currently trying to launch their business, the one that are already successful, the one that are getting bigger and bigger. I think all of this coming together, it grows really a soil that is perfect to build your company and be in a nice environment where you feel supported. So I think this is these are the massive assets for why you can still set up a company and be successful with your startup here.
Right.